On our third day of our trip to Vietnam, Janie and I went to Sunworld's Ba Na Hills. Ba Na Hills is about 2 hours away from our hotel, and the day was not what you would say conducive to outdoor activities. It was raining and foggy and quite miserable the whole time. But since it was out of town, we got to see a little bit more of Vietnam than we normally would have. And on the way up, we passed a whole bunch of stonecutters with statues and things like that. And a little later in the video, you'll understand why that's important. In fact, at the end of the video, we stopped at one of these, and we'll go over that when we get to that portion. And needless to say, I was impressed by the skills shown by the artists that do this type of work. Now, driving up, you're going up out of country into the hills, and truthfully, the weather didn't get a whole lot better. It rained harder and harder, and we were starting to worry a little bit about what our day was going to be like, to be frank. So when we bought the ticket, I bought Janie a little kind of see-through rain gear. It's just kind of a pullover that was plastic. So she had that. Me, I got wet. So, pardon my appearance. It is what it is. And we really enjoyed the ride up. Countryside, it was beautiful except for the rain. And, there were quite a bit of cars on the road. And we got to the park early enough that there was, almost nobody in the parking lot. Now, that's belied by the number of people that were in the park. There were a bunch of people in the park. Anyway, I'm going to keep talking a little bit about getting into the park. Now, the entrance to the park is right next to the parking lot, and there were guards and there were ticket takers, and there's Janie in a raincoat. And the tickets were taken by people that were very kind. It was very nice, very friendly. There were a lot of things to see on the outside. I call it the entranceway, but basically there were entrances to every section of the park. And when you walk in, once we get there, you have to take cable cars to get up to the different areas of the park, but you have to walk to where you get to the cable cars. And you can see the statuary and the water in the background, which the water in the background kind of impressed me a little bit because it was full. Full of koi. And all of a sudden, I missed my fishing gear because there were big koi in these waterways around the outside. In fact, I think a little later I have a little snippet of a video so you can kind of see how thick these things were. They were everywhere in the park, and here you go. The koi are taking over. Anyway, we just walked along these waterways into an entrance, and we wanted to get up to our cable cars. Now, the cable cars are important because they go to the different sections, and there's one that is extremely long and goes over a lot of different streams and waterfalls. So again, the different entrances are here. We're going to come up on the cable cars shortly, but needless to say, I was truly impressed by the way this whole park was set up. And there were some wild animals that seemed to enjoy it too. They walked around there, no fear of humans whatsoever. So going up, we stopped and took a couple pictures before getting up, and some of these pictures you'll probably see again a little bit later on in the different sections where they were. I tried to eliminate duplicates, but I'm not perfect. So now we go on into the cable cars. The cable cars are constantly moving. So what you get to do is you get to catch a cable car as it's moving. We took an escalator up, walked over to the building that had the cable cars, and then when we got on the cable cars, we got to ride with, and here you can see a little example of the cable cars. They had different types of cable cars too, by the way. They had round ones, they had rectangular ones. You can see it's moving, and you can see we walk up and we jump in, and then it takes off. Now, Janie was a little nervous I think is a good word. That's not a really nice smile. That's her first forced smile. And even though it's hard to see out these windows, we could see quite clearly. The camera just focuses too much on the water on the windows. But as you can see here, that's a pretty big waterfall. And we went over it. And there were trees and there were rivers and there were a lot of waterfalls. And here's an example of a glass bottom cable car. It would have been a lot nicer, I think, had it not been raining so much. But once you get in the cable cars, sometimes you have the opportunity to meet people in the cable car. And in this video snippet, you can see a family that was very kind to us and spoke to us as we went up. And I wanted to show this because this is what you see when you get out of the cable cars. They had shopping areas where you could pick up knickknacks and sometimes food and things like that. And they're covered and air conditioned, which is nice when it's hot and muggy. Anyway, we got a lot of pictures of a lot of people. Here's one of the different types of cable cars. And I just really enjoyed the whole way this park is put together. They had air sickness bags, man. Anyway, our first stop at the top of the cable cars was what they call the Golden Bridge. Now, Golden Bridge is a bridge that's held up by two gigantic hands. Hard to see in the fog and the rain that we're at, and you can see how foggy it is, but later on I'm going to have a picture of what the Golden Bridge looks like when it's not covered in water. And you can see by my hair I was soaked. But and it was very crowded. A lot of people, I guess it's because it's early, a lot of the people kind of congregated on near the hands and wanted to get pictures of themselves with the hands, a bunch of selfies, a bunch of people taking pictures of their friends. But that's what the Golden Bridge looks like when it's clear. But right after the Golden Bridge, there were giants. I mean, actual giants. Look at these things. These Easter Island, put to shame, these were huge and it was impressive. But then we entered Old Europe. And Old Europe is a section of the park that has everything from Europe history. It's really nice in that you have the cannons, you have dragons, and you have lions, and you have a church. Now, unfortunately, I think due to the weather, or maybe they just don't do it all the time, they do have these, as you can see in the video, people, swashbuckling heroes, and they put on shows. We didn't see a show. It's just too wet. Weddings coming out of the church. We did go to the church. Janie, in this video, you'll see her at the end, is going to beckon us into the church. She's waving us in. So without further ado, let's go into the church where we can see a massive door and beautiful stained glass windows. And what I was really impressed with was of course, they had Christ, but they also had a huge pipe organ right above the Christ statuary. And there were a lot of people inside. Now, I don't know how many of them were there to pray. Some of them were, obviously. But a lot of them were there just to get out of the rain. And the balustrades were great. But here we have windmills from Holland. And we have Roman or Italian statuary. And I believe that's probably a Greek one. But the truth is, they also had a Halloween festival. Halloween 2019, and this is a whole section dedicated to Halloween. Now, since it was near Halloween when we went, I'm guessing this is a changeable display, that it's not up year-round. This was up for the Halloween season, and I would guess they would change it into a Christmas season or, a Vietnamese or an Asian season, as the calendar goes by. So I love seeing the corn, by the way, coming, being born in Iowa, the state of the tall corn. But there was just so much to see, and I don't think this stuff was real. I think it was models that they can trot out and put out year after year after year. But it still was nice to look at, and it was very impressive. I mean, I did a long walked video in this whole thing, and this is probably, if not one of the 2 or 3 longest segments that I put into this video, and I'm trying to keep them shorter, but this is because there was just so much different to see every step we took. I mean, it was just, to me, it was very impressive and enjoyable. Even though the weather was ridiculous, I really enjoyed this trip. I thought this was probably my favorite stop on our tour to Vietnam was Ba Na Hills. Now, it wasn't cheap, but there was just so much, and we were exhausted by the end of it. Now, you got to remember me, I'm 270 pounds, and doing all this walking wears on my body, but steps are much harder than anything else. So after we went through the Halloween festival area, Janie and I went to the next area, and I like to call it the Stairway to Heaven. And the reason for that is there were so many frickin' stairways. I went up as many as I could, but at the end, Janie had to go on without me up this set. I just couldn't go anymore. So I found a place to sit, took a couple pictures, and waited for her to come back. And when I finally saw her, yay! I felt the same way. So the question was, well, what did she see up there that I didn't see? We made our way down. This is what she saw. Pretty much one building. Now, I'm sure in a clear day it would have been great. The view would have been great, but we didn't have it. So then we went to the stone cutters. And I missed a sign that said no photographs. I just got it there in the video. And I took videos and I took photographs, and it wasn't until the very end that a salesperson came up and said, no photographs, so I quit. But as you can see, I mean, this is an advertisement for them. They have great work. This stuff is the detail. It's just amazing. And it prompts a question, well, how do they do that? I mean, is it machine ground? Is it, polished by hand or by machine? I had no idea. And then I went outside and I got to see a little bit more of it. So after the pictures, we'll get to a short video where there's two craftsmen, man and a woman. I think it's husband and wife, but I'm not sure. And they were outside, and they were very kind. They said that I could video them. They had no problem with it. And the work they did was pretty amazing. And after I was done videoing, they actually gave me a piece of marble that I did not bring with me back out of Vietnam because I didn't know if it'd be legal or not. But I just thought it was very kind of them to give that to me. So, without further ado, here is the gentleman and the lady that were working. He was carving, she was sanding. And I mean, just look at the works that they do. They're amazing. Anyway, that was our trip to Ba Na Hills, day 3 in Vietnam. If you liked the video, subscribe to get more. Hit the notification bell, and please share the video, comment on the video. We love to hear from you.